Yes, I'm here. G'day everybody, and welcome to probably the final annual Great Wealth Transfer online training. I've been doing this for I think 7 or 8 years now, and this no doubt will be the absolute best. There's everything I predicted has come to pass. There's just a few more things left to happen, and this is where we tie it all up, put a bow on it, and show you the exact strategies to just catapult your wealth in the next few years. So a lot of experts are finally agreeing with me that right now, this next 2-year period represents the greatest opportunity of your life to go from where you are financially to where you want to be. I say it a little bit differently. I say it with some specificity so that you can hold me accountable. For years I've been saying that this 2-year period, which has just started, from the average person, you don't need to be the world's best trader or anything crazy, just the average person with just $5,000 correctly invested in the right asset classes now, within 24 months, will be able to create $100,000 per year of residual passive income, complete financial freedom. Now, when I say that, people roll their eyes and say, you've got to be kidding. Come on, that cannot possibly be true, until they see what I teach them right here on this whiteboard. And then the light bulb goes off and all of a sudden they get it. And so that's what we're going to do here today. For the next little bit, it's just you, it's me, it's the whiteboard, and I've just got, there is nothing left to hold out. We've covered so much information over the last few years that right now all I got to do is put the last few little pieces in place for you and show you the exact asset classes, when they're going to boom, when they're going to crash, and how to jump from asset class to asset class. And why do I get to do this at such a high level? I specifically make this event an invitation only event, okay? Right now, the only way you can be here is if you are a friend of mine, you're a friend of Jeff Berwick's, or a handful of other close-knit people that I know, where I know they've been amazing educators of their subscribers, and I can speak at a very high level. I don't need to slow down and explain what the Federal Reserve is, what fractional reserve banking is, what cryptocurrency is, none of that stuff. You guys know all of those things. So I get to speak at a very high level and teach you the exact strategies about what I'm doing to go into different asset classes and when to create those ridiculous returns I just shared. So if that sounds exciting, pay attention. We're going to do lots and lots of cool stuff here. Forgive me if I look down every now and again. I've got lots of notes down here that I want to make sure I get through as I do it. So I do want to start with, I want to shatter a myth and maybe create a new way of thinking here. But a lot of people, they're out there selling courses and doing things like how to become the world's best trader and how to become the world's best real estate investor and those kinds of things. I want to say, I learned a long time ago that's not the best strategy. It is true, you can become an absolutely incredible investor in one of these asset classes, and you can focus several decades on it, get at the top of your game, and then if it's an up market, a down market, a sideways market, no matter what happens, you can crush it in that market. But what I've found and what's been very successful to me is that if I just understand the very high level macro stuff, and understand which asset class is going to boom, and then when it's going to crash, I make sure I'm not there and I'm in somewhere else. I don't have to be that good an investor at any one thing to make a lot of profit. The translation is I always want to be swimming with the current. And so when I understand that the current is behind this particular asset class, I don't have to be a very strong swimmer to jump in, create incredible gains, and when I know it's time for this asset class, it's run its course, everything is cyclical, we're going to jump out and get into another asset class and run it. That's how I've been able to stack massive gains on massive gains on massive gains and create incredible results. That's what we're going to be talking about today. Not super high level strategies on any one asset class, but on the macro level, which asset classes do we want to be in and which asset classes do we want to shift to at the right time. And that's why now is the most incredible time, because we have a time when major asset classes are out of phase. There's going to be some big movements in several different asset classes over the next couple of years. For a whole bunch of reasons which I've been explaining for years, but we're going to breeze over that today because I think you guys have got a fair idea that we're in the middle of a massive recession. This is just the beginning. Those recessions always kind of last about 2 years, and we're in the very beginning stages of that. You know big things are coming. So now, how do we go in if one asset class is in a boom phase while others in a crash phase, we want to be swimming with the current in this asset class. Then when it flips and this one goes up and this one maybe comes down, we want to get out of that asset class, jump into this asset class and swim with the current. And if you add those two together, we're going to end up with our results way up here. So that is the goal for us today. So there is a A lot to cover today, so I'm going to go super fast. I'm going to talk fast, I'm going to go fast, but I think it's going to be really fun for you. We're going to cover some really, really good stuff. Before I get into it, let's just do some housekeeping. There's no income claims being made today. I'm not a financial accountant, I'm not a financial planner, an accountant, a lawyer, any of those things. I'm just a guy, I'm doing it for myself, and I'm going to share with you what I do for me. Number two, I really think this is going to completely change your life, so I highly recommend turning off your phone, close the door to the room you're on, close your other tabs, close Skype, go ahead and just give me your attention for this next little bit. And at the end of it, so you know, my goal for you is to understand exactly when each asset class is going to go boom and bust, and for you to help you create your plan to how to manage the next couple of years. Okay, we're going to do all the major asset classes: stock market, real estate, precious metals, cryptocurrency, fiat currencies. We're going to do it all so that you just can jump in one asset class to the other and ride those multiple waves up, okay? And last little thing, just below this video, you'll see a box. It's a place where you can write in your questions. Just off camera here, I have Dan. He's controlling the feed, so you see the right things today as we go through the presentation. And he's also collecting all of the questions that you guys are writing. So please, throughout this presentation, if you have a question, go ahead and write that in there. In fact, go ahead and start right now. Do me a favor. Have you been on this presentation before, or is this the very first time? If it's your first time, welcome. I'm confident we're absolutely going to blow you away today. If you've been here before, you're going to love it, because now there's so many of the predictions I've made. They're in the rear vision mirror. We don't have to talk about them anymore. We just get to go to the actual blueprint of how you catapult your wealth forward over the next few years, and I think you guys are going to love it too. So let me know, is it your first time watching this presentation, or have you seen it before? We love to hear from you. Okay, let's go ahead and get into this right now. So to begin with, let's start at the super high level, like 50,000 feet, right? There is a build up, there is a crash, and then there is the next boom. And you guys know, just in case there's any doubt, it's happened in every crash in history. Go back and look at a chart from the Great Depression or anyone, 2008, look at them all. There is always this big crash. Then there is this bounce up. It seems like, oh, was that the end of it? And then there is this the big movement is still to come. We are here, which is why I say this is probably the last annual Great Wealth Transfer webinar, because this time next year, I believe the horse is bolted, the window is shut, and there is nothing left to act. We are way down here, and there's nothing left for me to teach you. You've missed your chance. Right now, if you haven't got involved in following the strategy that I've been teaching for a little bit, you may be down 5, 10, 15%. Maybe you lost a little bit. I don't know. Maybe you're up a little bit. It doesn't really matter. You're still doing fine compared to what's about to happen. So you still have that opportunity. So I'm just going to keep this super simple. I'm not going to draw the little bumps along the way. There's just the build up, there's the crash, and there's the up. Here's some things we want you to learn. The build ups, they normally last 4 to 7 years. We just had a very extended one, nearly going 12 years. The crashes normally go 1 to 3 years. We're just going to call this like a 2-year period, okay? The crash is a 2-year period. Here's something that I want you to get your mind around that kind of is the precursor to all of this, and it's another big bold statement leading to proving my other big bold statement at the head. Just so you know, in case you're not familiar with it, if you're new, I like to make ridiculously bold statements that seem impossible to be true, and then methodically proving them here on the whiteboard so that you understand. So the big bold claim that we're working towards is that with just $5,000, you can go ahead and create $100,000 per year of residual income and give yourself complete financial freedom. On the way to that, here's another claim that I'm going to prove for you right here in a minute. The cost of financial freedom at this point is 10 times less than the cost of financial freedom at this point. And that's something people, it's just like, can't possibly, I get that there's a dip and maybe you can take advantage of it. 10 times? Yes, 10 times cheaper for financial freedom down here than up here. So what we're going to do as a strategy today is we're going to work backwards. We're going to start with the end in mind, and we're going to come back and find out what do we need to have at this section, and if we know that, what do we need to have up here to make sure that everything happens so that we achieve our goal of complete financial freedom. So let's go ahead and talk about that for a second, complete financial freedom. This is an interesting one. Whenever I ask people, what is financial freedom to you, or how do you know when you can retire? When will you know when you get there? I always get an answer that shows me these people are in big trouble. I get an answer something like, oh, $2 million in savings, or $4 million in my 401k, or some amount of money in my retirement vehicles. The moment I hear that, I know they're in big, big trouble. And the best way for me to explain this to you is with an anecdote of speaking to actually my former father-in-law. When I spoke to him, he's 62 years old at the time. He was a very, very successful lawyer. I knew he had several $1 million in his retirement accounts and things like that. And I asked him, I was like, John, when are you going to retire? And he was like, I probably could, but I just don't feel comfortable. Like, what if I live to be 100? What if my last 10 years of my life have really high medical expenses? I'm just terrified that no matter how much money I got, it's never enough. I mean, I'm 62, I might live to be 100. I can't predict my costs for the next 40 years. How will I just don't feel comfortable retiring. I can't, but I've probably got enough. But he said, Max, I got to tell you, I'm absolutely tormented. Just not too long ago, one of the guys I graduated law school with, he's been a lifelong friend, I went to his funeral a little while ago. He's the same age as me, he's 62, and just 4 months earlier, he got a cancer diagnosis, and then just 4 months later, he's gone. And so I'm at that age where just my friends are starting to die. I feel pretty healthy, I think I'm good, I think I'm gonna be around for a long time, but I feel like an idiot. This poor guy, he just worked until the day he died. He never ever got that retirement. And so on the one hand, I feel like I absolutely have to retire, or I'm insane, or I might miss my retirement and golden years and all the travel I've got planned. At the same time, I'm terrified to take that step, because what if I run out of money at the other end? What if I live another 20, 30 years and I feel trapped? And there's another concept that kicks in telling me that his plan effectively is to live off his savings and just not run out of money before he dies. That's the plan, right? And as maybe younger guys can't relate to this, but as you get older, every single person goes through this. They start to think about their legacy. What can they leave to their children? What charity can they leave to? What foundation can they set up? What can they do? And his strategy is literally to just leave nothing, just burn through it all and live a good life and have nothing left. And I know that doesn't make him happy. Let me give you, and as I said with him, let me show you a much, much better way to understand that concept of retirement and financial freedom. It's how I was able to become completely financially free at the age of 30. So, financial freedom is a number, but it's not that number. Financial freedom is an income. It's a residual income, money that just comes in every single month, whether you work or not. If you want to go on holidays for 5 years and come back, every single month that money comes in. And it can be different amounts of money at different stages of life. My very first goal when I was in my early 20s was to hit $50,000 a year. If I had $50,000 a year coming in from investments, it doesn't matter what the investment is. Is it an apartment building that you own and that money comes in? Is it some high dividend paying stock? It doesn't matter. However that money comes in, as long as it comes in without me working, I know I'm going to be taken care of. And as a young guy, single, if I could pay the rent, go to the beach every day, buy a couple of cases of beer a week, I was a happy clam. That was financial freedom for me. Well, I hit that goal, and then I went ahead and got married and have children, and now it's a very, very different figure. The next goal I tried to hit was $300,000 per year. That's what that means. So it depends on where you are in your life, but the question I have for you right now is, what is financial freedom for you? What's that number where if that amount of money is coming in from some investment that you can rely on it, it's going to be indexed to inflation for the rest of your life, and if that money was coming in, you knew you would never have to take a job that you didn't like. You would be completely financially free. Go ahead and write that down. We're going to call that the financial freedom number. It's your financial freedom number. I'm going to use a round number of $100,000 per year here. $100,000 per year is I'm going to use in the examples on the board here, and that's just going to make my math really, really easy. But for you, write down whatever that number is. So this figure of financial freedom, that is what we are working towards, I hope. Financial freedom is all that ever mattered to me. When I was young, when I was 18, all I cared about was financial freedom. And I made the commitment, I'm either going to be very rich financially free, or I'm going to go and live on a hut and be financially free. But live in a hut on the beach and be very, very poor, but financially free. I knew I was not going to be working forever. I knew I was always going to have that lifestyle. It's a commitment I made myself very, very early. And that has helped me so much, because as my income goes up and up and up, I just find it fun. I work for fun, just make more income. It's just a thing. More investments, whatever. So financial freedom is what I would encourage you guys to focus on. It's been a very, very good lesson for me. Once you do that, There's a metric that almost, I don't know anybody else who talks about it. I invented the metric to my knowledge. No one else talks about this, but there's a very, very powerful metric. You need to know what? Your cash flow on cash. Cash flow on cash. What is that metric? Well, for any given time, depending on your skill set, depending on the time, when you make an investment, how much annual returns do you get back for the amount of money you put in? What that's helping us understand is what is the cost to buy financial freedom. There's an apartment building here and it's making $1 million a year and that's my financial freedom number. If I could own that, I'd have $1 million a year. What is the cost of that building? That is the cost of financial freedom. You need to know how much money do you need to have to buy that building to put $2 million per year in your pocket, and you'll now know what the cost of financial freedom is. And here's the formula that is given to you. Don't worry, I'm just going to do some very light math here. It's all good. So this formula is the annual returns divided by the amount of cash that you put into the deal. The annual returns every year, the money that gets put in your pocket divided by the amount of cash you had to put into it, that is your cash flow on cash returns. And it's the most important metric that I look at in any deal. How much income am I buying for every single dollar I put into that deal? I would encourage you to make this the focus of all of your investments. Next, there's one more little equation we want to write down. Once we know this, oh, and by the way, this cash flow and cash return, it changes with time. It's two main ingredients to it. One is your skill set. The higher your skill set gets, the better investor you become, the higher returns you get. But also, the different phases and cycles of the economy have very different expectations about how much cash flow you can get out of it. And that is what we are going to arbitrage and take advantage of here. You'll see that in just a minute. Once you have these two ingredients, you can now find out the most important thing is what is the cost to buy your financial freedom. How much money on the chart, how much money do you need when you arrive at the bottom of that market and that inflection point? How much money do you need at this point to go ahead and buy your financial freedom? That is what we are going to go ahead and work out right here. Now, the cost of financial freedom is simply your financial freedom income, whatever you said it was, divided by your cash flow and cash abilities at any given time. Whatever rate of return you can get, that is what you need that to know what the cost of financial freedom is. The higher your cash flow and cash returns, the better that you don't need as much money to buy your financial freedom, to buy your income. Does that make sense? Okay, so now we're going to talk about, let's put that aside for a second. We're going to talk about, and I used to do this with all kinds of charts and graphs and looking at 2008 and looking at Great Depression, looking at all these different things in history to demonstrate exactly how the cash flow and cash returns over time change so that we're there to take advantage of that. And I found a way more fun way to do this. I was very lucky. A couple of years ago, I was at a wedding in Cabo. And I happened to chat to and become friends with a really big time developer in Las Vegas. And he was sharing with me his experiences of going through the 2008 financial crisis. And he gave me a specific anecdote about a specific building of his, which was emblematic. It happened at the top end of town, happened in single family residences, happened in little eightplexes, happened all across the country, happened in different cities to a greater degree than others. But it really, really perfectly illustrates the point I need to demonstrate to you now. And this is the, if everything, I want you to pay attention to this. This is the big aha moment for sure that people get out of this presentation. They have no idea just how drastic the change is. So let's go through this presentation. My friend, we're going to call him, Guy 1, and the year is 2004. Okay? And he is going to build, I think it's a 250 unit apartment building in Vegas, something he's done several times before and several times after. But he has got a $25 million building, okay? And so he needs to put in a $4 million deposit, and he also goes and gets $21 million from the bank. He goes ahead and builds the building, fills it up with tenants, puts a management team in place, and goes off and moves on to his next project. But during this time, he's making $2 million per year net operating income. $2 million per year. If you're not familiar with this, what NOI means, net operating income, it's all of your profits, all of your rent, all of your income, less all of your expenses except the financing expenses. So if you have to pay a management team, marketing team, maintenance team to maintain the building, you can deduct all of those expenses. You deduct every single one of your expenses except your financing costs, okay? So his building, filled up with tenants, is bringing up $2 million in probably 2006 by now. Probably took a couple of years to build. It's bringing in $2 million. And the interest cost, the mortgage repayment on his $21 million loan is $1.5 million. So his profit per year is $500,000 per year. 2008 comes along and the bank calls him up and says, hey, how you going? He's like, I'm good. Are you happy? I've been making all my payments. You should be good. He's like, no, we're not happy. We believe, and they were right, the market has crashed. We believe that your building is no longer worth 25 million. We believe your building is now worth 14 million. And you've got a problem because you owe us $21 million and we think you've only got $14 million in security in there. You're upside down. You need to chip in $10 million in a few months or else we're foreclosing on you. And even though you haven't missed a payment, even though you're paying things off beautifully, we believe you're upside down and you need to stick in $10 million to fix this or else we're foreclosing on you. Why did they do this? If they foreclosed on him and got this bad thing off the books during the right time and the right parameters, the government will bail out the banks and cover their losses. If they leave this on the books and miss their window to get a bailout, they might have to eat the losses themselves. So even though this entrepreneur is paying the banks and taking care of everything, they don't like it. Stick in the money or get out. Okay. He had about 10 of these buildings, right? He managed to save about half of them. He put in the money and saved them. Another half he couldn't afford. He just let them go, let the banks take it. This is the story of one of the properties that he let go and the bank took it. Guy 2 shows up in 2009. He comes along and he buys this same building for $7 million. $7 million. It cost $25 million to build. He buys it for $7 million. Now, I know all of these numbers are true and accurate because I know Guy 1. I don't know Guy 2, so I have to make some assumptions about how he financed it and whatever else, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. Let's say he put down a 20% deposit. So he puts down 1.4 million. I'm going to draw a line down here to separate these two. He puts down 1.4 million, and he has to borrow from the bank $5.6 million. Oh, to keep that consistent, let's keep that line out of there. Okay. Now, in case you don't know, in the world of real estate, over time, rents are very, very consistent. There's no boom bust cycle in sense. They're very, very consistent. They just gradually go up with inflation. The price of property goes up in boom and bust cycles. Rents are very, very consistent. So even though in 2008 and the world's crying in their Cheerios and everyone's miserable and unemployment goes up and wherever else, people are getting kicked out of their homes, they've got to rent somewhere and the rents don't go down too much. So the net operating income when he handed over this property was still $2 million. It might have lost a little bit, but it wasn't. But also, the Fed had dropped interest rates significantly, so the cost of his interest went down. We're going to ignore those two things. They're moot, so don't worry about them. So we're going to say his income, his net operating income is still pretty close to $2 million during this time, after he takes over the building. Okay. Now this guy was paying $1.5 million in interest on his $21 million loan. He would have got better interest rates, but we said we'd ignore that. Forget that. Just factoring in for the size of the debt, this guy, how much does he have to pay his interest costs on his mortgage? $400,000, right? 1.5 million on 21 million, $400,000 on 5.6 million. What does that mean? Every year, this guy is putting $1.6 million into his pockets. Now, again, this is happening on like a 250 unit development, but it happened in single family residences. It happened in 5-plexes and 8-plexes and 20-plexes. It happened all over the joint during this critical time of 2008 when everyone was crying in their Cheerios at the very bottom. These things come about. All right, let's go ahead and do some math and apply our formulas and see if we're this guy and we're trying to buy financial freedom in 2004, what does it cost comparing to buying financial freedom in 2009? Let's go ahead and check those numbers out. First thing we've got to do is we've got to work out what is this guy's ability, what's his cash flow on cash returns on his investment. Okay, so we'll start up here. His cash flow on cash returns are equal to the formula. His annual returns, he gets to put $500,000 in his pocket, divided by the amount of cash he put into the deal. He put $4 million into the deal. That equals an eighth. It's pretty close to about 12%. His ability to invest in 2004, cash flow on cash, is 12%. Okay, for a given level of financial freedom, I'm going to use round numbers of $100,000. To purchase $100,000 per year of residual income from this building, it's given by this formula. What does his financial freedom cost in 2004? Well, it's given by the annual income you want, that's $100,000 per year, divided by his ability to invest cash flow on cash, it's 12%. $100,000 divided by 12%, it's equal to pretty close to $800,000. The cost of financial freedom in 2004 for this guy is $800,000. He goes and buys a building with his skill set for $800,000. He can buy his income, his financial freedom of $100,000 per year. Okay, let's keep that in mind. And I'll go ahead and box this cash flow and cash as well. Let's go ahead and do the exact same work for guy number 2, Johnny on the spot, in 2009. His cash flow and cash return is equal to the annual returns. He's making $1.6 million in his pocket every year, divided by the amount of cash he put into the deal, a $1.4 million deposit. You do the math on that, it's a little bit better than 110%. His cash flow on cash return is 110% compared to only 12% for this guy. All right, let's finish this off. The cost of financial freedom in 2009, if your definition of financial freedom is $100,000 per year, is $100,000 divided by your cash on cash flow ability is 110%. You do the math on that, and it's around $90,000. In 2009, if you show up with $90,000, you can buy $100,000 a year income. In 2004, to buy that same income, it costs you $800,000, nearly 10 times the amount. But look at the skill set of these two guys. This guy is a real estate developer doing 250 apartments at a time. He is one of the most talented people in the entire economy. He has to go and buy a parcel of land, maybe possibly amalgamate several pieces and create this amazing parcel of land. Then he's got to go and get an architect. He's got to create a vision, to create certain types of, should it do a hotel, an apartment building, a retirement village? An incredible amount of research and effort goes into deciding what the hell to build there. Then once it's designed, he's got to take it to the city, get the plans approved, go through all the 3-letter bureaucracies, get the environmental thing done, bribe God knows how many people you've got to do to get that through in Las Vegas. Then he's got to go and deal with construction companies, deal with trade unions, deal with strikes, deal with materials, get this whole thing built. Once it's built, he's got to use his marketing expertise to fill it up with tenants. He's got to put a management team in place. He's got to put a maintenance team in place. He's got to do this whole thing, tie it up with a bow, whoosh, leave it aside so he can go and start his next building. And for all of that work, he's going to get 12% cash flow on cash returns. What is guy two's skill set? What did he do? He showed up, the building was built, the management place was in team, the management team was in place, the maintenance team is in place. Everything is done and dusted. It's already got a bow on it. He shows up and he gets 110% cash flow on cash return. Anybody can be guy number 2. You just need one skill set. Your one skill set is to have the patience to sit and wait and not be going crazy during the boom times, but wait for that big crash, come in at that inflection point, and all of a sudden, the cost of financial freedom for you is nearly 10 times less than in 2004. But 2004 wasn't the worst of it. What if you tried to do this building in 2007? In 2007, you're halfway through building it. You just got the concrete shell up. You remember driving along the highway 2009, 2010. There's this concrete building. It's got no windows. It sat there for 5 years. What happened? Someone was building it. The bank came along and said, oh, hey, you got to stick an extra $10 million into this deal. And the developer just went too hard, walked away. They made 0% return if you start this building in 2006, 2007. In 2004, you got a 12% cash flow on cash return. In 2009, with no skill set, you can just show up, get 100% cash flow on cash return, and absolutely crush it. The one skill set you need, learn to swim with the current. Understand the macro, understand when to jump into the right asset class, and play that perfectly. There's so many cool examples of this through history, by the way. Probably the very best, most famous example of this in all of history is Paris Hilton's grandfather, the founder of the Hilton Hotel empire. He bought 4 hotels in the peak of the Great Depression, between 29 and 32. He bought 4 hotels, and every single one of those hotels that he bought, all of them, were making 100% cash flow returns. Not cash flow on cash returns, just cash flow returns. Meaning, if he bought a building or a business, a hotel that was bringing in $2 million in net operating income minus all the expenses, then he bought it for $2 million. Imagine buying an asset for $2 million, paying it off in a year, let's call it 13 months with interest, paying it off in a year, and now you own a building outright with no debt on it, and you just stick $2 million a year in your pocket ever after. Hilton did that 4 times between 29 and 32, and he created the foundation of what became the Hilton Hotel empire. There's just so many stories through history, and it's not just in real estate. It happens in the stock market too. These companies, what's most important is that during a crash, wealth is neither created nor destroyed. The wealth is the stuff. It's the farmhouse, it's the equipment, it's the building, it's the business, it's the hotel, it's the wineries, it's all that stuff has wealth. The price gets smashed and you can come in and buy it for pennies, but it's still there, you still own it. On the stock market, what do companies do when the price is getting smashed? Very often, especially these massive companies, Google, Apple, they're sitting around with hundreds of millions of dollars in the bank. They're not going anywhere. They're still going to be there. They're still going to be great companies. It's their price that gets smashed. You can come in and buy them for pennies. And very often, what do these companies do to support their share price? They start issuing rather large dividends. Not all of them, but you just need to find one who's giving out very large dividends. And all of a sudden, you can purchase financial freedom at incredible rates. Probably the most famous example in history of this one, John F. Kennedy, his father, just 45 days before Black Tuesday, he goes ahead and liquidates all of his stock, sells everything. And in the next 4 years, he's buying down here at the bottom, and he buys up everything that he sold just before it crashed, plus 45 times more. He multiplied his wealth by 45 times just by jumping out of that thing. When the current was about to turn against him, he jumped out. The current turns against him, he jumps in and then just gets rocketed forward, swimming with the current. I know I got a very educated crowd here. They're probably going to say, yes, but he had insider trading. Yes, you're probably right. But the principle of what I'm trying to share is still valid. Okay, the cost of financial freedom down here is at least 10 times cheaper than up here. And if we can just get that discipline to do this and go down here, whoo, you can multiply your wealth so much. It is absolutely insane. Guys, I hope you guys are excited by this because we are, I predict, about 18 months away from this. I'm predicting pretty close to December 2021. This is what we're going to be doing. Between now and then, I'm looking, there's going to be just a big steady decline in stock market, real estate. We'll tie this all up with a conclusion in a minute, but I hope you understand, this is, as an opportunity for you to create wealth, there's just never been anything like this monumental crash that's about to happen. It's 2 things are happening at the same time. This monumental bubble that has been created over this 12-year boom cycle and unprecedented Fed printing and central bank printing around the world. And then you throw in COVID-19 and go into a worldwide lockdown and businesses just collapse. the bigger the crash, the bigger the opportunity. Another little story on that, because I've studied crashes from all over the world. I remember hearing an interview once. It was about a guy. He was an adult at the time, but he was telling a story. He was a young boy during the 1990 Argentinian peso collapse, and his family got completely wiped out. They had a local business. They got completely wiped out. Their business was gone. Their savings were destroyed. The currency went into hyperinflation. Except they had one customer who for the last several months had been paying them in US dollars instead of pesos. And after this crash happened, the family had one little shoebox. Their business gone, their savings destroyed. They had one little shoebox with 3,000 US dollars into it. And at the bottom of that crash, they put that $3,000 into the Argentinian stock market. And that family has been living off the dividends of that investment for the next 30 years. That was his story. The bigger the crash, the more incredible the opportunities. So, I mean, I don't know. I think it's going to be a pretty big one, guys. I think it's going to be a very, very big one, and our opportunity is incredible. So, let's tie this off. We're going, remember, here's the graph. We want to arrive at this inflection point. You tell me, do you believe that you can be guy number 2 and show up and buy some single family residences, or maybe like an 8-plex or maybe a 15-plex or something? Are you able to get 100% cash flow on cash returns if they're just sitting there waiting to be picked up? All you need to do is arrive at this point with the right psychology. A few resources behind you. We're going to find out exactly how many. A few resources in your pocket, and you can buy financial freedom at an absolute bargain. So do you believe that you can be this person who can grab 100% cash flow on cash returns? I think literally anybody can. So let's work backwards. How much money do you need to arrive at this point to create your financial freedom? Let's go ahead and do that now. Okay. The cost of financial freedom is your financial freedom number, whatever your number is. I'm going to use $100,000. $100,000 per year of income divided by your ability to cash flow and cash invest during that time, which I think we just said, like if you're guy number 2, you can get 100% cash flow on cash. They're everywhere. They're in single family homes. They're in apartment buildings. They're everywhere. $100,000 or any number divided by 100% is that same number. If your retirement number was $100,000, you need $100,000 at that point to buy $100,000 per year of income. If your number was $300,000 per year of income to be completely financially free, you need $300,000 at that point to buy $300,000 worth a year of income. So now you know, whatever your freedom number is, that's how much money you need to arrive. Let's call it Christmas 2021. That's how much money you need to get there. However, we've still got 18 months, 2 years to go. Now, I know, again, only because you guys are a very, very educated crowd, I'm going to skip over a whole bunch of stuff here. I've got free videos on this on YouTube. When you signed up, I probably sent you this video as well. So you guys all know this, but Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies has a 4-year cycle, okay? In 2013, 2013, Bitcoin hit $1,200 after a massive, for the previous 12 months, it went from $10, actually I think more accurately it was 12. It was $12 to $1,200 in the year 2013, a 100x return. Comes back down here to like 250, and then in the next cycle, so now 2013 plus 4 years, we're at 2017, it goes from $250 up to a peak of $20,000. Over the next couple of years, we come back down here to like $3,000, and now we're on our way up. We're already just going to call it $10,000 for round figures. In this next crash, by the end of 2021, on the 4-year cycle, you guys know about the halving. I'm not going to explain all this. Up here, I'm expecting Bitcoin to be anywhere between $100,000 and $500,000 per Bitcoin. And let me explain where I did this. I have lots of very, very famous prediction videos on YouTube because I predict Bitcoin price not next week, but like 2, 3, 4 years out. I've been doing it with incredible accuracy, have very much a reputation on YouTube for doing this. And I made a video, it was in April of 2019. And my first prediction was that in May of 2020, that the Bitcoin price would be $15,000, $15,500 to be specific. And the price in May was something like $5,000 of the year before. Price in May was about $5,000. And I said, look, this is not the big exciting year. The big exciting year is the one after. We're going to be pretty sideways. We're going to end up about $15,000. I think we ended up in May of 2020, we were about $10,000, okay? But my prediction for May of 2021 was that we would be at $100,000 Bitcoin, and probably the end of 2021, I thought we'd probably get to $200,000 Bitcoin. The end of 2021, just before an absolute massive crash in Bitcoin. But by the end of 2021, we are about to go through this every 4 years, this parabolic move up. But just recently on YouTube, I made a public prediction. I said, listen, I have changed my mind. I don't think we're going to hit $200,000 anymore. I think we're going to hit $500,000 Bitcoin. On the condition, it was a condition. So right now, I believe that we are going to go, there will be some banking failures over the next, in like first world countries. So some, probably most likely in Europe, could be Germany or Spain or Italy or something like that. If anywhere in the first world, in like a G20 country, goes through a significant banking crisis and there's like just depositors lose money, anything like that, you will see the price of Bitcoin and precious metals absolutely explode. And I now think it is more likely than not that that will happen. And so therefore, I think it's more likely than not that Bitcoin will get to $500,000 in this next cycle, okay? Without the banking failures in a first world country, I bring that back to $200,000. But now my prediction is up to Bitcoin to hit $500,000 because of banking failures. Okay, let's take a look at that. For round numbers, today, the Bitcoin price, going to call it $10,000. Forget the $500,000, forget that, let's say there is no banking failure. And we're just going to say the Bitcoin price goes to $200,000 is my prediction. That is a 20x. So now, you know you need to arrive here at your financial freedom number. How much money do you have to stick in Bitcoin now in order to arrive at that point with your financial freedom number? Well, you just divide it by 20. If your goal was to buy $100,000 per year of income, right, $100,000 divided by 20, the expected gain of Bitcoin, $100,000 divided by 20 equals $5,000. Remember the big, bold, ridiculous claim that couldn't possibly be true I gave at the beginning of the presentation? With just $5,000 invested today, hold it in Bitcoin for 18 months, something like that, I believe you're going to turn that into $200,000. From that $200,000, you can, $5,000 will turn it into $100,000. With that $100,000, you will be able to, at that point, get cash flow on cash returns of 100% or more, and you will be able to buy $100,000 per year of income. Whew. I hope that is exciting for you guys. Like, for the vast majority of people, just think about it. In my opinion, if your financial freedom number was $100,000 per year, you can probably get your hands on $5,000 today. Like, if your financial freedom was $300,000, you can probably get your hands on $15,000 today, right? Because it's like psychology is linked to your abilities and current skill set. If your financial freedom was $50,000, you can probably get your hands on $2,500 today, right? That's why I believe virtually anybody can go ahead and literally be retired. They can be financially free in the next 18 months, 2 years. Woo, guys, this is very, very exciting. I've been predicting this for a long time and it is all kind of coming to head. There's so many things I predicted. They're in the rear vision mirror now. They've come true. And here we are. So let's go ahead, put a big bow on this, wrap it up with all the conclusions and tie this on. So again, I do just want to stress, because these markets are out of phase, it's very rare that it happens. That's why this opportunity is so good. The Bitcoin phase is about to go parabolic at the same time that real estate and stock market is about to get crushed. So if we're in this river now, and then about 2 years later, these currents are going to reverse. Bitcoin will go through its another cataclysmic crushing 2 years and probably go down about 80%, and real estate and stock market and things will probably come back, and we get to ride this wave up, jump out of this asset class into this asset class and ride this wave up and stack our booms and just create incredible results. when everybody else is just getting smashed and thrown around in the murky, muddy, torrent-filled waters, you know where to be, because it's going to be an incredibly tumultuous time. And if you believe as I believe, then these are the asset classes you need to go to. So let's go ahead, wrap this all up, and come up with a specific plan. What asset classes are going to be good for us? What asset classes are going to be great? Okay, number one, I believe, you may have predicted this already, Bitcoin. Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies is the place to be for the next 12, 18 months. It's just going to be a phenomenal period, and I'm just so unbelievably excited by it. There might be one more big crushing pullback on all the markets, by the way. I think there may be one more, but nonetheless, doesn't change my prediction for like the end of 2021. I still have those high expectations. How we get there, a little bit loose. Maybe there's another really good buying opportunity coming in, or maybe we just go ahead and get Bitcoin right now. Another phenomenal asset class to be in, precious metals. Last year when I made this prediction, people were like rolling their eyes, like, really? It's like, okay, precious metals hasn't done a darn thing. Right now, we see gold just took out an all-time high. Silver is still way off its all-time high. The gold-silver ratio is still, well in silver's favor. Pardon me. Well in silver's favor, so I would suggest silver over gold right now. But all precious metals are going to be a great, great place to be. And then this one's going to shock the hell out of you, I'm sure of it. It's okay. Fiat, specifically US dollars. What? What do you mean? Money printing galore, dollars are going to crash. How can fiat currencies possibly survive? I 100% agree with you, but timing. I think we do have a little bit of time, and cash is an okay place to be for a short amount of time. We can be in these ones for a little bit longer, but this one we can be in a short amount of time. I'll be more specific in a minute. Where do we not want to be? We do not want to be in the stock market. Do not be in the stock market. This last little session and this little dead cat pounce we're having, that is just so all the smart money can get out. You'll notice there's a lot of retail investors coming in. We talked Robinhood and a whole bunch of things. I'm not going to go into the details of that, but this is the smart money's running, the dumb money's rushing in, and of course the government money, that all goes out to their friends, and so the smart money's getting out. They've made their profits. Let's put those assets on the books of retail uneducated investors and the taxpayers, and let's get ourselves on the sidelines. The crash comes in, then they all come back in and buy it for pennies off the dollar once the retail investors and the taxpayers got slaughtered. That's the plan. They always do it. It's happening again. It's a bit of a yawn. Real estate has not had the significant damage yet, but it is gonna happen hard. Big time setbacks in real estate and the stock market. You do not want to be in those two asset classes, in my opinion. And that's why fiat is looking good compared to those. But I wouldn't hold fiat for very long. If you're going to hold fiat, I suggest US dollars. If you're, it is the cleanest dirty shirt, for lack of a good analogy. It's the cleanest dirty shirt of the fiats. Be there, but don't be in there for very long. But if you want to miss out on the big cataclysmic crash here, and this cataclysmic crash here, that's why my prediction is one more big pullback. It's a liquidity event. It's a crisis event. You might see these two things get crushed for a period of like 2 or 3 months, and it will be a phenomenal buying opportunity, and then off to the races. I can't guarantee that's going to happen because of all the money printing going on, a few other bits and pieces. So my assets are in all of these things. And by the way, this is something that is incredible to say. I said at the beginning of the presentation, I am a cash flow guy. I love cash flow. Everything for me is about working towards buying cash flow. What are the 3 asset classes I'm in? No cash flow, no cash flow, no cash flow. What am I saying to get out of? Cash flow, cash flow. That hurts my heart to say that, believe me. But it is a necessary evil. It's very, very smart. Why? We are in the middle of a gigantic, multi-decade debt-fueled bubble. So the Fed's printing money. When there's just printing money, and it's available here, go borrow, go borrow, go borrow, the things that can be bid up in price a stupid amount is when you borrow money, you buy cash flow, and then you can afford to pay your interest repayments, so you can borrow more, and then you buy more cash flow, and you can make your interest repayments, and so you borrow more, and it's a vicious loop. When the currency supply expands as it has, it's the things that produce cash flow that form the biggest bubbles. That's why I can't be in them right now, and I've got to be on the sideline. When those bubbles pop, that's when I come in. The price of these gets smashed. Now I get to buy that cash flow for pennies on the dollar in order to just sit on the sidelines. The number one goal for everything, arrive at this point with a good psychology and as many resources as possible. Everyone else is going to be crying in their Cheerios down here. The only thing you need to succeed really is a good psychology. You don't even need much money to get this. I do these examples here of 100% cash on cash flow return. I'm expecting 1,000% cash on cash flow return and even infinity. Why? Because no money down deals grow on trees then. Let me explain that real quick. Let's just say, okay, guy bought a house for $120,000 like 3 years ago. It went up to like 150. You got like $100,000 of debt. And all of a sudden this crash comes and his $150,000 house goes down to $100,000. So he's got a $100,000 house. He's got $100,000 of debt on it. There's no equity in his deal. It's a house he lived in. He can't afford it. What's the point? He lost his job. What's the point of staying here in this? I've got no equity in it. I just want to walk away, but I'm going to go bankrupt. Screw this. I'm going to give it to the bank. I'll just deal with the bankruptcy later. It's like, hey, buddy, don't go anywhere. There's no need for you to go bankrupt. Let me take over this property. I'll assume the loan is what it's called. I will take over this property. I'll deal with all the headaches and I will pay off this $100,000 loan. Your credit rating won't get hit. You don't have to go into bankruptcy. You just give me this property, no money down. I'll take over for it and I'll turn it into a winning cash flow situation. And the no money down deals are just going to be huge. You don't need money at that inflection point to make a lot, is the actual truth. But it's way better to arrive there with a shit ton of cash than not, I would suggest. So why not go ahead and do that, ride the Bitcoin wave, etc. All you need to be here is a good psychology, good skill set, and you are sorted. Okay, let's go through how this is all going to play down. As this crash hits, what's the first thing they have already done? This used to be a prediction. I've got to change my language. What's the first thing they'll do? I've got to change it. What's the first thing they did? They will lower interest rates. In preparation for this presentation, I watched my old one. And it's like, so I've got some of the old language in my head. It's like, the first thing they're going to do is they're going to lower interest rates. But typically, they lower interest rates by about 3%. This is the Fed, at the cash rate at the Fed. They lower by about 3% during a recession to go ahead and boost the next economy. But the problem was the cash rate was just 2.25, I think. They lowered them all the way to zero. Maybe they can go negative, but it hasn't really worked for Europe. So this was never going to be enough. So what were they going to do next? Bailouts. Bailouts is what they're going to do next. Well, we know that's happened. It's called stimulus packages all over the world, pretty every single country on the planet. They've just been printing money. The taxpayers are taking the losses and they're just giving money to organizations, institutions, banks. They're doing whatever they've got to do to bail out the big institutions and the banks. But I said it was not going to be enough. So this prediction has come true. This prediction has come true. And finally, I said there's one more prediction. This won't be enough, this won't be enough this time around, and they're going to do something else, the bail-in. It's very important you understand this. If you have not followed, it's a method they tested in 2013, a little Mediterranean country called Cyprus. One day in Cyprus, Saturday morning, for some reason, it happens on the weekend, Saturday morning, the banks announced via the national broadcaster, the two biggest banks in the country are broke. They're insolvent. They're upside down. It's dead. For the next 3 weeks, ATMs are dead, banks are all closed, no access to your cash whatsoever, zero. At the end of that 3 weeks and 3 weeks of negotiating with the European Central Bank, they come up with a plan. They're going to do a bail-in. So what they did was, I agree with, if you had $1 million in the bank, it got chopped in half. You got $500,000 in the bank. Whatever you had in the bank, it just got chopped in half. You lost it. It's gone. Your money got chopped in half. After the 3 weeks, the banks reopen. Everyone's balance has been chopped in half. If you just had your balance chopped in half, what would you want to do? You want to get the half out that you had, at least keep that. Of course, they know that. You can only access your money at the rate of 100 euros per day. So you lost half it instantaneously, and the other half you can't actually access. You are stuck. That is what a bail-in is look like. They liked that model. If you've been reading like the G20 summaries and whatever else, they've talked about it. They have already put on the books all the laws they need to do in US, in Europe, to go ahead and do a bail-in. I think a bail-in is almost certain this time. I believe it's most likely to happen first in Europe. And like I said, if that happens, if there's a major G20 country, think Germany, think France, think Spain, think Italy, think England, think the US, think Canada, think Australia, in any major first world country, if there's a major bail-in at a bank, and just people's bank accounts get chopped in half, you are going to see the price of precious metals and Bitcoin absolutely go ridiculous. So, and I think it is now more likely than not than that will happen. So this is what we've got to look forward to. So what's the conclusion be in these asset classes? For sure, this one, you can still be there for a little while just to avoid this, but you will need to transfer into these two out of this at some point, because that's going to take 2 years to unwind and those prices to come down, and you don't want to be in fiat that whole time. I don't think the fiat will last that whole 2 years without absolutely getting pummeled, especially in relation to these two things. So that's your blueprint, but we're out of time. But here is what I would suggest. My fear, my big fear, and I would say, no, it's way worse than a fear. I know full well it's going to happen. Even the people that do the right thing and understand this and get in these right asset classes, the vast majority of them are still going to get slaughtered because they're holding these assets in the wrong way. Let's say you're holding fiat dollars and you're into US dollars, but you leave it in the bank and they go ahead and do a bail-in and they just chop your account in half. Well, what was the point of being super smart and not being in the stock market? Yeah, you missed out on the stock market going chopped in half, but your bank account got chopped in half. You still lost half of your wealth. You think it's as simple as calling up your broker, getting gold, getting silver, and being an investor in gold and silver, and you think you get to ride that price up? You don't. Major institutions are going to fail, counterparty risk galore, and even if you do the right thing and invest in precious metals, you still most likely will get slaughtered unless you know how to do it correctly. And finally, Bitcoin. You think it's as simple as calling up Coinbase, calling up Kraken, opening up an account, doing the right thing, buying some Bitcoin, buying some cryptocurrency? No, you will still probably get slaughtered. I can speak for days on each of these three asset classes about how to hold them safely so that you, no matter what happens in the world, you still have access to them. They do not get slaughtered. They do not get confiscated. I've got solutions for all of these things, and in some instance, getting a great return while you do that. For example, if you want to hold fiat, I can show you how to get 5% interest on your money that you've loaned to somebody, but only after they have put in twice the value in precious metals as security. So you give me $200,000 worth of gold, I'll hold this as security. You can borrow $100,000 from me, and and pay me 5% interest for the privilege. If you don't pay, I'm going to keep your $200,000 in gold. My risk is very, very little, but I'm getting a 5% return. So I've got all these different strategies for how to hold these things in the safest possible way and get the best possible return. So it's at this point I would like to invite all of you to join us at the Success Council and learn all of this stuff. Dan, if you can please put on the PowerPoint, I'm going to sit down here at the computer and go through this. Success Council members enjoy access to our private system of asset management that will put your assets on the right side of the great wealth transfer. It is a step-by-step blueprint to empower you to take complete control of your financial destiny. We teach you everything you need to know to take the simple steps to protect and multiply your wealth in the upcoming crash. To do that, our members-only area is laid out in easy-to-digest sections so you can go straight to the part that you are interested in at any given time. And you can find out for yourself, absolutely risk-free, just how powerful all this information is, but I'll tell you more about that in just a moment. First, I want to tell you about some of the things you will receive inside the Success Council members area that we just simply did not have time to cover during this training. Our first section and flagship product is on gold and silver precious metals investing. In this section, we begin with a breakdown of the current financial system. Once armed with this information, you will have the knowledge to place yourself and your assets out of harm's way for absolute peace of mind. People always ask, why are my predictions so accurate? The answer is, my understanding of the system is so accurate that it makes it like child's play to predict. Well, I teach you so that you have that skill too. how to buy and store precious metals the right way, the safe way, so you can sleep at night and not be worried sick in a year or two if you are going to lose it all. I will teach you all the risks of owning precious metals and how to mitigate them so you don't have any stress. It is sad, but I believe over 87% of precious metals investors will have their gold taken off of them because they did not buy and store it the right way. Don't let that happen to you. We have interviews with experts like David Morgan and G. Edward Griffin so you can hear it right from the horse's mouth. How to recession-proof your retirement plan so you have nothing to worry about. How to generate cash flow from your precious metals investment. No one teaches this, but it's dead easy to increase your gold returns by implementing this. My personal contacts and cheat sheet of who I use to buy and store my gold. This is like a Rolodex of the who is trustworthy people in this industry. Who can you trust with your metals? Know once and for all. This is huge, especially because once things start to get shaky, only a handful of reputable dealers will actually do what they promise in both protecting and handing over your metals. You will learn how to easily, legally, safely, and in a tax-advantaged way move your retirement funds into a self-managed retirement fund. This will allow you to hold precious metals, cash, Bitcoin, stocks, and real estate all in your retirement fund. I'll show you this so that you can have the peace of mind to manage your retirement funds along with your savings. Plus, there are loads of underground strategies to make big bucks, like the strategy to get the banks to go to work for you to get free silver bullion. So don't think you need a lot of money to take advantage of the Success Council membership. You don't. We will teach you how to pick up free silver right out of your local bank legally. The next section, Cash Bonanza. It's all about how to get great returns on your cash the safest way possible so you can rely on that money even when banks and brokerage houses are going belly up left and right. I'll teach you one strategy that you can easily earn 20 times a higher return that you can by leaving it in the bank. And in my opinion, it's 20 times safer as well. I'll teach you another strategy where the worst possible outcome is you will earn 10 to 14% interest on your cash. In this amazing strategy, you actually hope it all goes belly up and you get an even higher return, sometimes 10 times higher. These are both killer strategies, and I don't know anybody else who teaches them. But best of all, they are completely removed from the banking and finance systems. Even if every bank and every brokerage house and every insurance company on the planet went bankrupt, your money would still be protected and available to you as promised when you need it at the beginning of phase 3. You are going to sleep like a baby knowing that your money is 100% secure no matter how bad the crisis gets. If you remember the images when Enron went broke and Lehman went broke and all these people that cried as they realized their savings and retirements vanished. Their nest eggs literally disappeared. It breaks my heart to say this, it really does, but we are going to see a lot more of that in the coming crisis. Retirement funds will disappear overnight, but it doesn't have to be you. These two strategies will allow you not to be affected in any way, even if a financial Armageddon hits. What price tag do you put on that level of peace of mind? Any fear or trepidation about what might happen will melt away once you understand these two strategies. Our next section is Bitcoin. It's actually two whole products here in one. First, the famed Bitcoin Starter Kit. In the Starter Kit, you will learn how to quickly and easily create a Bitcoin wallet in under 60 seconds, helping you safely hold and protect your coins. How to buy Bitcoins in just a day. By the way, you can start with as little as $1. How to sell Bitcoin so you can cash in your profits along the way. How to trade Bitcoin so you can purchase your everyday items with it. How to store Bitcoin safely. How to accept Bitcoin for payment for your goods and services, opening up your personal business to a whole new world of Bitcoin consumers. And best security practices. Security is actually one of the most important aspects of Bitcoin and one of the most understood. The Bitcoin Starter Kit will give you step-by-step instructions on best practices to keeping your Bitcoin safe. Next, we have Bitcoin Mastery. This is the really important stuff. It goes into the full discussions of Bitcoin's philosophy. It evaluates its strengths, weaknesses, the opportunities, and the threats. We dive deep into the economics of Bitcoin. Who will benefit? Or what will the adoption curve look like? What will drive price? What will drive innovation? How will governments react? And what are the warning signs you need to be aware of when investing in Bitcoin? All of these questions will be answered. We even interview some of the original players in the Bitcoin world and find out where Bitcoin has been and where it is going. These guys are the living proof that Bitcoin can make multi-millionaires in just months. True rags to riches stories. Their insight and discussion of the highly volatile Bitcoin world is priceless. And of course, you get my predictions, and I let you know when I'm buying and selling along the way. So these three asset classes, precious metals, cash, and Bitcoin, I believe should be in everyone's arsenal right now. I would suggest it should be the majority, but even if it's only a portion of your wealth, I think you are mad not to have these items stored away safely in the current climate. Taking this step represents you declaring that you will be on the right side of the great wealth transfer, that you will seize the greatest opportunity of your lifetime to create complete and utter financial freedom for you, your family, and generations to come. So what is the value of this wealth of information? The precious metals section alone is our flagship product and contains way more than just precious metals. It has the models that are key to predicting what might transpire in the near future. It has the contacts and tips on liberating your retirement funds into a self-directed retirement account. And in addition to all of the underground strategies to make cash flow from your metals and buy and store them in such a way that they will be there after the crash. You can easily pay over $1,000 for trainings just like this. In the Cash Bonanza, we have 2 killer strategies that gets your cash outside of the banking system and making great returns. The peace of mind you get from this is priceless, and quite frankly, I don't know anybody else teaching this. You simply can't get this information from any other places, so I have no idea what this is worth. I believe it's worth thousands, but let's just keep it conservative and say $500. The Bitcoin Mastery and Bitcoin Starter Kit have been responsible for making multiple millions of dollars for my students, and I believe there is plenty more to come. In fact, I just had a call just the other day. It was from who is now a friend of mine, but when I first met him in 2013, one of the first conversation we had was about Bitcoin. I told him about it and I sold him on it. He was a very successful business person, just making boatloads of cash, didn't know what to do with it. And at the time, he and his business partner, who I also met, they just were throwing money at stuff. And they just threw $100,000 here and $100,000 there and $100,000 at this idea. And I just spoke to him the other day and he said, all of the other ideas are all worthless now. But because of you, we put $100,000 into Bitcoin back in 2013, and it's now worth over $5 million, taking care of all of the losses of those other ideas from other people that they took. So that's from one person. And I spoke to them and I said, here's the access to the members area, go and follow this information. And they did. I didn't even know they did until I spoke to them more recently. So let me get back to my notes here. The value of that information plus my buy and sell recommendations, I'm going to be super conservative here and say it's worth over $1,000 on its own. And I think that's crazy conservative, but there you go. The total value of all this, guys, is over $2,500. But you're not going to pay anything like that today. And stay tuned because I'm going to sweeten the deal considerably. But I know there are many of you already chomping at the bit to get involved and get immediate access. So I promised you are not going to pay $2,500 today. You're not even going to pay $2,000 and you're not going to pay $1,000. Today, you can get immediate access to the entire wealth creation system for just $497. And to make it an absolute no-brainer, we have a payment option as well, and that's 3 monthly payments of $197. Dan, go ahead, put up the add to cart buttons, please. You should see the buttons appear beside and below this presentation, guys. So please go ahead and click on one of these add to cart buttons right now and secure your spot. Remember, this is the key to going from where you are financially to where you want to be. You can click that button now and you will still be able to see and hear me while you secure your membership. So go ahead and do that now. Oh, and by the way, if you step up and make this investment in yourself, I've made it an absolute no-lose situation for you. Your membership today comes with a 60-day, 100% money-back guarantee. So you get to try it out. Go through the material, see if it is everything I promised. Just see if it's for you. And if for any reason you think it is not, you can simply email us and within 60 days we will rush you a full refund. There is absolutely nothing to lose. It is a risk-free trial for you, so go ahead and click that add to cart button, and in the next few minutes you will be on your way to taking advantage of the great wealth transfer that is approaching us. Remember, I only do this once a year, and if you miss it this year, you'll have to wait a whole 12 months to get another chance. You don't want to take that chance, believe me, because we may not have a year left. The stakes are simply too high. Go ahead and click that add to cart button now. We would love to have you as a member of the Success Council. But I'm not finished yet, because I did promise you that I would sweeten the deal, didn't I? And here is what I've decided to do. I'm a big believer that successful people snatch up opportunities when they are presented to them, and fast movers are exactly the type of people I like to help. So I have a few fast action bonuses for people that act right now. Dan, if you could go ahead, set the timer for 10 minutes, please. Put it up so people can see it. Now, for those of you who have already secured your membership, or will before that timer counts down, I'm going to include some unbelievable fast action bonuses. Here they are. Fast action bonus number 1, stock market success. I've created a brand new section that will teach you how to use the stock market to multiply your wealth in the coming crisis. I go into 3 tools to achieve exactly that. They're puts, shorts, and inverse ETFs. I'll explain what each of these tools are and how you can implement them. Now, I do want to warn you, this is an advanced strategy and involves a higher risk than the other investments we have discussed before, but it does represent a way to multiply your wealth many times over during phase 2 when everyone else is losing their shirts. This can really set you up for phase 3 in a gigantic way, but it is for advanced users only and should only be done with a small portion of your wealth. I'll also update this section in phase 3 with my high dividend paying stock that I'll be purchasing at that time. Its value is $297. Fast action bonus number 2, real estate riches. I'll be giving away all my secrets as to why I can get such crazy high rents. I'll walk you through the deals I am doing and why I'm doing them, and I will teach you the no money down secrets and where to find the best deals. I will show you the secret tax subsidies that Uncle Sam will give you to make all your investments that much more lucrative that hardly anybody else know about. This will massively increase your cash on cash flow investment skills, so your financial freedom will be that much closer. In fact, I have a student that is saving hundreds of thousands of dollars in tax in their other non-real estate businesses because they are able to create such huge tax incentives on their real estate profits that if they can flow that through and cancel out their taxable income on their other businesses. The tax savings from real estate are ginormous, and it's huge. These skills are going to massively increase your cash on cash flow investment skills. So your financial freedom will be that much closer. Because remember the formula on the whiteboard? The cost of your financial freedom will plummet as your skills increase so that you can do higher cash on cash flow investments. So learning this will magically bring retirement and financial freedom within your grasp when you learn these skills. I'm going to add a lot more to this section in the coming years as well, just so you know, and you're going to get all that included, those updates. The value of real estate riches is $997. Fast action bonus number 3, safety and security through internationalization. We will show you the latest on how to internationalize yourself to protect yourself from your government if they begin to steal wealth or freedom from their citizens. Inside, we help you create alternatives and show you how to get a second passport, where to set up your businesses, safe alternative places to live, suggested countries, communities, and jurisdictions, and how to get your money across borders and circumvent the coming capital controls by beating them before they are even put in place. The value of the safety and security through internationalization section is $197. And fast action bonus number 4, preparedness must-dos. I mentioned plenty of businesses will go broke, and that might include critical infrastructure like support. Did you know that any given city only has enough food in its grocery stores at any one time to feed its citizens for 8 hours? Any disruptions could cause crazy scenes like Hurricane Katrina caused in New Orleans. So we also teach you how to survive exactly where you are in case basic services like food, water, and transportation become scarce. We go into topics like how to get and prepare food, it's super cheap and super simple, food storage, weapons and ammunition, and the necessary supplies that you would never even have considered. Its value is $197. All of these 4 fast action bonuses are yours free today when you purchase Success Council membership right now. The bonuses alone represent over $1,700 in value for a grand total of $4,200. Again, you are not going to find this offer anywhere else. I'm making it to you now purely because you've already indicated you're someone who is serious about taking control of your financial destiny. If you miss out on it now, you won't have another opportunity for a whole 12 months, and that is just too big a risk right now. It's people like you who are going to set an example for others on the importance of preparing for what's coming, the importance of shielding what you already have and positioning yourself to profit and grow your net worth right when the time is ripe. You are someone who understands what is coming, and I don't want anything to stop you and hold you back from getting your hands on the incredibly valuable information that you're going to get access to in just a few minutes as a Success Council member. It is time to step up and claim your financial freedom that you deserve, but no one can do it for you. You have to take the step and claim it for yourself. So go ahead and click on the Add to Cart button right now. You have nothing to lose thanks to our 60-day, 100% money-back guarantee. And with our payment plan, absolutely everyone can afford this investment in themselves. Guys, this is a tremendous opportunity. I just can't recommend this stuff enough. Dan, let me put this down again and send the camera back to me and we'll do some of these questions. Okay, so I've got your questions here. Question number 1 is, I live in England. Is the information in Success Council appropriate for British people, or is it US focused? No, the answer is it is completely international. In fact, a lot of the things I recommend is some international diversification. So I'll teach you about strategies to hold certain types of wealth in Singapore and certain types of wealth in Europe and certain types of wealth in all over the place. So it's a very, very international flavor. It doesn't matter if you're from Asia or Australia or Europe. This information is absolutely true for you. Because I'm in the States, I might know a little tax trick or something like that. So maybe 5% of the information is like for Americans only. But as a general rule, no, this information is perfect for international people. Are there any ongoing fees or other costs, upsells after I buy, with the really good stuff? No, there's no other fees. This is a one-time payment and you get lifetime access. The people who have bought this 5-6 years ago, they still have access to all this information. They've never paid another cent. So there is no other ongoing fees and there's no other upsells. It's a very quick cart experience for you. If you go ahead and click add to cart, that's it. You can't spend any more money with me today if you tried. I'm not holding back the really good stuff. You get everything. Are there any altcoins you are endorsing at the moment? No, and I got this question last year too, but I'm getting a lot closer to that. I think probably BTC dominance probably has peaked out. And so I think over the next 6 months, I'm going to be sharing with my members my altcoin predictions and probably do a deep dive on DeFi, privacy coins, things like that. But at the moment, I am not recommending it. I still think BTC is a fantastic play, probably the best play, just at the moment. Are there any, the other one, sorry. What will cause the next leg down, and when will it happen in the crash? Okay, so yeah, great question. What will cause it? I mean, it can just be anything. You never know. Like in 2008, they said there was no crisis, and then they go back and trace it all back a year later. And it's like, oh, the stock market crash in Iceland caused this whole calamity. What will be the trigger point on this next leg down? I don't know. Could be some bad COVID-19 news. Could be maybe winter's going to hit for North America here in the not too distant future as it gets colder. Maybe it's going to cause an explosion and a COVID breakout. It could be a bank crashing, a pension fund going belly up. Could be all kinds of things, and it doesn't really matter. When is it going to be? I think it's going to be sometimes here pretty soon in the next 3 months. I will say almost certainly before the U.S. presidential election in November. They really are trying to drill in the pain for everybody trying to get Trump out of office. So they are trying to cause as much misery and pain and suffering before that date. They really need their guy back at the helm to implement all the things, because they use this crisis, they use all crises to implement their agenda. And when they want to use this crisis to put their man in so that they can go ahead and do everything it is that they want to do. I don't believe Trump is their man. An imperfect vehicle for sure, but at least I think he actually loves his country and trying the best to his ability, which is the best deal we as the average person has got in like the last 30 years. So I'll take it for that reason, but they really need to get Trump out, and so they're going to try and inflict a lot more pain and misery on us over the next few months, and so I think that next leg down will be part of that. What's the quote here? Can you elaborate on the dollar crisis funnel you talk about? Okay, so this is obviously a subscriber of mine from YouTube, so thank you for joining us. I can't draw with a pen, that's no good. Just quickly for everybody, what the dollar crisis funnel that I've created is, here's my prediction over the next several years. It just looks like a funnel. Nope, that pen's decided to die. Looks like a funnel like this, and so you've got real estate, you've got the stock market, you've got probably bonds up here, and you've got a whole bunch of traditional assets that the vast majority of people are in, pension funds, etc. And as this unwinds, as this gigantic bubble deflates, people are going to run from there. And I think their first stop is the US dollar. And that's kind of already played out to a large extent. Like I said, I think there's going to be another big bump, and US dollar is going to be fine to get in there. And they're going to run to the US dollar as a perceived safe haven. They will eventually discover that that is not a safe haven, and they will probably go to precious metals. And then I think eventually, several years now, we're talking like 5 years out maybe. They'll run to both precious metals and Bitcoin at this phase. But then eventually, I think the censorship that is easy, relatively easy with precious metals compared to cryptocurrency is going to send people running out of precious metals and eventually into BTC. And then maybe even eventually we might go into privacy coins, things like Monero, Zcash, things like that. And so this is my funnel. All of the trillions of dollars up here. The derivatives market's another quadrillion one up here. It's got to escape and grow to safe haven. Safe haven, I think, for the most people will be the US dollar. Eventually, that will be exposed as a problem. They will run to precious metals. That's when precious metals goes absolutely parabolic. And then Bitcoin again, somewhere in there, that's going to go parabolic. And eventually, I think people will even step away from precious metals and going into cryptocurrencies. And then maybe, we're talking quite a whiles down here. This could be like a 10-year funnel. Eventually, we're going to go to maybe like a privacy coin or a DeFi coin, something like that. But there will be an exodus throughout all of this. And maybe BTC is where this funnel ends. I'm not saying it's not, but there might be another leg. This is like a 10-year out prediction, so we'll see where that's going. So that was that final question on what I call the dollar crisis funnel. All right, let's go ahead and do one final recap. Dan, pull up the PowerPoint for me. Okay, so let's just recap everything. Actually, before we do that, let's just go ahead and check the clock. I see it's run out. Okay, but that's completely my fault. I took too long to explain it. Dan, go ahead, put up another 5 minutes, put that up while we recap, and then we'll close out. So guys, here is what you receive instant access to today when you join. You get precious metals investing. It is going to lift the veil and reveal the secrets of the world of government and banking so you know how the world really works. This will give you powerful insights so you can make smart moves confidently. You'll also learn the underground strategies to buy and hold precious metals so they are safe after the crash. It is valued at $1,000. Cash Bonanza. Learn 2 epic strategies to earn great returns outside of the banking system. So even if there is a giant banking collapse, you will be safe and have peace of mind. It's valued at $500. Bitcoin Mastery and Bitcoin Starter Kit is the tool set that has made millions for our customers. Everything you need to become a master of Bitcoin, plus my future predictions and notifications when I'm buying and selling. That's valued at $1,000. Stock market success. Learn how to profit from the crash and multiply your wealth when everyone else is crying from the devastation, valued at $297. Real estate riches. Learn how to create massive tax advantages that can eliminate your taxes entirely, even from your non-real estate businesses and jobs like several of my students have done. Just think how much faster your wealth would grow if you got to keep all of your income. Plus, learn how to massively increase your cash flow from real estate investments using these tried and true techniques. Real Estate Riches is an absolute bargain at $997. Safety and security through internationalization. Learn how to diversify your assets across multiple jurisdictions just in case the worst happens at home for the ultimate peace of mind. Its value is $197. And preparedness must-dos. Learn the basics of protecting your family and being self-sufficient, at least for a little while. Give yourself that breathing room to take action just in case of a natural disaster or a financial disaster. Its value is $197. All of that, guys, it adds up to $4,200 in value. Yours for an incredibly low investment of just $497 or 3 monthly payments of $197. So go ahead and click the Add to Cart button right now. You have until that clock runs out, and then this deal will vanish forever. Take that first step now, because if you don't, life will get in the way and you will miss your chance to seize the greatest opportunity of your lifetime to create legacy wealth and true financial freedom. So click that Add to Cart button now. Dan, please bring the camera back up. So guys, that's all for us today. I hope you've had an amazing time. I've had an absolute ball. I love this stuff. I love teaching. And thank you so much for being here. I hope you decide to become a Success Council member. Right below this presentation, you'll see the Add to Cart buttons. Go ahead and click them. Join us. Give it a try. It is absolutely risk-free. This is a risk-free proposition. There is a money-back guarantee on this. You can go ahead and click that button right now, and I hope to see you inside the members area. Take care.